Thank you for having me here. I don't know if you are aware of what's happening in Davos this week. It's interesting that the main topic of all the politicians, tech leaders, and leaders from all organizations is AI. And they're talking about the benefits of AI, how to implement it, challenges, risk, responsible AI, and regulations and cooperation between the private sector and governments because AI is affecting everything. It just is fitting and timely that we are meeting today during the week of Davos and talking about AI. We'll start with definitions. What is AI? The challenges, risks, why do we need responsible AI, and how UNICEF will benefit from the implementation of AI. A little bit about my background. I went to a STEM school. This was my first love with technology. At college, I studied social science, economics, and was very intrigued about how can technology help solve problems of society and economics. I got my PhD at Stanford School at NYU, worked as a data scientist in the financial industry. Then 8 years ago, I became passionate about the integration of all technologies, not just AI, but Web3, metaverse, etc. I'm a great believer in technology. I really believe that it can do great things for society. I'm also fully aware that technology is not perfect and the potential for technology to bring great benefits to society is as great as its potential to cause damage and harm. So this is why I'm advocating for responsible innovation. Innovate, but responsibly. First, we're going to talk about AI in everyday life. And I would like to start with what we call a Turing test. Alan Turing was a British mathematical genius in the 50s. I know that it seems that AI only arrived to the surface, but it's been around for the past 8 decades. Turing is considered one of the founding fathers of artificial intelligence and the modern cognitive science. I say one of because there were a few, including John McCarthy, coined the term of artificial intelligence. Turing's idea was to test whether a machine has the ability to have intelligence that is indistinguishable from that of a human, and especially when it comes to language. So one of these statements is actually what ED4 said, and the other one was generated by ChatGPT. What do you think? The one on the left is what she said, and the other one was generated by ChatGPT. So it's interesting that it's managed to confuse a few people. It probably passes the Turing test. What about ED Lake? Do you think that the right or the left is real? The consensus is that the left is real. And this is true. Did it pass the Turing test? Probably not. The language generated is too eloquent. The grammar is perfect. It doesn't sound like something that humans would say. In fact, this is the way that I can tell if my students are deriving something from a bot or they're writing it themselves. Let's do another one. Lionel Messi. One of the baby Messi pictures was generated by Midjourney, which is a text-to-image Gen AI, which is the real one. It's right. The technology didn't fool you. It did not pass the Turing test. There's subtle bias, and we'll talk more about biases and stereotypes later. I don't know if you know that. Messi loved classical music and he plays the piano, but Midjourney believes that all he does is football. So as a child, he must be wearing a soccer outfit. Let's think about AI in everyday life. You all been fascinated by ChatGPT. How accurate is it from your experience? Not very accurate.
I'm going to focus on chatbots like ChatGPT, but everything that we are going to discuss applies to all AI systems.
Chatbots' accuracy depends on their data sources, and there could be problems with data. It could be incomplete, inaccurate, and if it's fed to the chatbot, then that's what that chatbot is going to spit out. Bots like ChatGPT are trained on millions of web pages and don't necessarily try to figure out what's accurate and what's not. Accuracy also depends on the way you ask questions. Sometimes you have to ask several times until you get the correct response. This is why there is a technique called prompt engineering, which is exactly the art of asking a question. So AI still needs the human in the loop. If you ask the same question, different bots will give you different answers. Why? They may be tapping to different data sources. But even if they tap into the same data sources, the bot's brains or models, as they're called in AI, are different. So it's also the art of the model. AI hallucinations occur when the bot responds something that it fabricates. It is going to sound very real and may include fabricating sources. The hallucination has nothing to do with criminal intent, but rather with the way that the model was developed. Let me show you an example courtesy of H2O.ai. We have four chatbots, but Meta's Llama, ChatGPT, Hugging Faces, Zephyr, and Mistral. I'm asking for the acronym QAFAFU. Llama says, I don't know. Mistral and Zephyr are hallucinating. They're very confident about names and time. And ChatGPT is right. QAFAFU is an organization I've been a member of for many years. It's about financial quant, the AI for finance. I asked the same question, but each bot came up with different answers. Now, a word about deepfakes. What you saw with the image of baby Messi is basically a deepfake. You can generate audio, video, or images that are not real, but look real. The purpose makes it criminal. Half of the world is in an election year and wonders how AI is going to affect information and misinformation. Let me show you an example. This is Donald Trump as if he was arrested. This is not real, but was generated around May 2023 before he was actually arrested by a journalist who wanted to make a point. And some people did believe it. That's exactly what legislators are afraid of, that more like that will be floating around. Finally, criminals can use AI to generate audio and video that sound as your loved ones for scams. It's very easy and cheap. Last time I checked, there were at least 70 open source AI audio and video generators on GitHub. Technology makes our life more productive and efficient. It also makes criminals' lives efficient and productive. Technology is just a tool, and like any tool, it can do good or harm. There was a quote by the CTO of PayPal that technology is the enabler, not the destination. It's in our control to decide what to do with it, and that goes to responsible AI. You've been using AI every day. Think about spam filtering and restaurant recommendations. Think about corrections of an email and Google Maps. Think about wearables. It's all AI. Let's ask Sam Altman, who is the CEO of OpenAI, Elon Musk, and this Huang, who is NVIDIA CEO, what they think about the future of AI. For Gates, it's what we call assistant AI. Today, you have different apps. You want to write an email, you open one app. You want to reserve a table, you open another app. Bill Gates believes that in the next 5 years, you will have one app that does everything by learning and interconnecting your personality, your relationships, your purchasing habits, etc. But there are inherent privacy and security risks to this approach. For Sam Altman, it is Assistant API, which is Application Programming Interface. Basically, it helps developers add sophisticated AI functionalities to their apps without writing code. Jensen Huang is the CEO of NVIDIA, the major provider of GPU chips. GPUs or graphics processing units are very popular in gaming, but also accelerate a lot of AI workloads. Huang says that in the next 5 years, we will reach artificial general AI, which is a type of AI that can do everything as good, if not better, than a human. And finally, Elon Musk believes that there will come a point when AI does everything for you. No one is going to work. There will be a world of abundance. It's interesting that at the same time, he says that AI can be a threat to civilization and calls for regulators to interfere. Do you see any biases in these deep fakes, like cultural, or gender, or anything? There is cultural bias. Hung is Asian, and his crowd is mostly Asian. Age-wise, Altman's crowd is younger. Gender-wise, there are very few women. Where does the AI intelligence come from? Models, which are the AI brains, are fed data. And who creates this data? Us, right? So the biases we just saw are probably something that we consciously or unconsciously created. Every subtlety of bias exists in the data. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development came up with an AI definition. Everything that is fed data and outputs data, such as predictions, insight, and assessments, is AI. ML, meaning machine learning, is a term you'll often hear in AI. ML is the subset of AI that makes AI systems learn from data without being explicitly programmed to do so and enables the predictions, insight, and assessments, etc. So our chatbots really intelligent. Intelligence can be defined as a faculty of mind by which order is perceived in a situation previously considered as a disorder. Now, we already saw that it all depends on the art of the prompting, on the way that the human interacts with the bot. So, chatbots are not fully intelligent. We already mentioned that AI loves data, that it all depends on the data. Data is a very central component of AI. AI will not live without data. The onus is on the data.
Before diving into data, let's try to understand better ChatGPT and look at the
Definitions of large language models, Gen AI, foundation models. What is LLM, which is large language model? Basically, it is a digital representation of language. Now, large comes from the fact that the model has billions of parameters. What are parameters? Think about the LLM as a giant library. Parameters are like the organization system of that library. More parameters is like having a super organized library where you can find the exact book you need, discover related work, and explore different topics. Modern LLMs have trillions of parameters. So their responses are very granular and very refined. Examples of LLMs are OpenAI's GPT, which stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, and which is the LLM on which ChatGPT is based, and Claude, on which Archibot, the European Parliament's archive chatbot, is built. Now, Gen AI generating, what does it generate? It generates content. ChatGPT is an example of Gen AI. We also have this nice sketch from Midjourney on the slide, realistic images from Vivid AI and Perchance, and summaries from Copilot. So Gen AI is anything that generates content such as audio, video, text, images, etc. And lastly, foundation models are models trained on a broad range of data at scale and on which more specific AI systems build. LLMs are examples of foundation models. GPT, on which ChatGPT is based, was trained on more than 400 billion words from web pages. Image generation models like DALL-E, on which Bing image creators build, is another example of foundation models. DALL-E was trained on billions of text to image pairs. Foundation models are the focus of most of the regulations. The 2021 EU Act on AI was mostly about levels of risk, from minimal to limited, high, and unacceptable risk to the safety of citizens. Because of the popularity of Gemini, they wrote a new article completely focused on foundation models with requirements about the data transparency, model training, and risk assessment. We talked about the crucial importance of data, which means that we need to govern and manage it. Let's start with data management because data governance is one aspect of data management. Data management includes data architecture, storage, stewardship, and everything that has to do with the data life cycle from the day it enters the system to the day that it retires, if it retires. Best practices in data management start with establishing business goals. They include establishing standards and procedures for the data lifecycle, focusing on security, data cleaning, interoperability between different data sets, etc. Basically, to get really good insights, we need really good data. That's what data management is all about. Data governance is basically policies and procedures specifically about the availability, quality, and security of the data. Quality is crucial because without it, we will get inconsistent, inaccurate, or biased results. Best practices include establishing and enforcing data quality rules and prioritizing data security and privacy, which is especially important for UNICEF because you're dealing with sensitive beneficiary data. An example of data governance would be a procedure to remove sensitive information from datasets while adding the context of this information and logging the details of this transformation. You can then use the clean dataset to train the model and still get accurate insights without the sensitive beneficiaries' data.
Thanks, Mira. At this stage of the presentation, I think that it would be useful to understand what DAPM is already doing in data management and data governance. Friederike Scheuer from the Office of the Chief Data Officer couldn't be here today, but I'll relay what she would have liked to say. DAPM's focus echoes what Mira just mentioned, with an accent on initiatives that are useful for both humans and AI systems. DAPM focuses on automated data discovery, on data quality, and data protection and security. DAPM also collaborates with ICTD on building an effective underlying data infrastructure. AI policies and guidelines on accountability and guardrails are in development. Guardrails are important to help avoid critical mistakes. One example would be sending an internal document to ChatGPT because some of this document could just be included in the response to another user's prompt. We know that data is absolutely essential in an AI system, and the DAPM is for data. So the importance of this division in the future of AI cannot be overstated. Hence the really big logo.
Thanks, Thierry. We mentioned a few problems with the data, biases, inaccuracies, etc. And we know that there are problems with the models themselves. Responsible innovation, and in our case, responsible AI is about mitigating these problems in a way that is beneficial for society. I'm going to illustrate responsible AI on a WASH program called GEWS, which stands for Groundwater Early Warning System. And GEWS monitors groundwater in the drought-prone southern Madagascar. It predicts water shortage or contamination and raises warnings that trigger interventions to preserve water services.
GEWS is an interesting case because it is not Gen AI.
So, what is responsible innovation? Responsible innovation is creating technologies that work for society without causing more problems than they solve. Innovate, but responsibly. It's almost impossible to have zero problems with AI systems, but at least responsible innovation or responsible AI can minimize them as much as possible. Let's talk about responsible AI and issues with data. I'm going to take LLMs as an example because this is what most people use, but this applies to any AI model. We know that there are risks and challenges with data. We talked about inaccuracies and biases. We mentioned that if you feed bad data to an AI system, it's going to be garbage in, garbage out. And with LLMs, which need a lot of data and have a lot of parameters, it's garbage in, garbage out on steroids. Now, what I call the $1 trillion question is, how do you build an effective verification process or layer for LLMs? There are two use cases. One is using an application like Copilot, in which case the verification process is performed by an established group of employees who are experts from different departments and can validate Copilot's responses before making important decisions. The other use case is when you're building an AI application like Unibot, whether internally or in partnership with a company, then you are the verification process. You are accountable for the development, the generated information accuracy, which means that you are also accountable for the training data accuracy. This is an important aspect of responsible AI. How can we apply that to use? In the program, the collection of information from the water probes is done manually. Collecting and monitoring manually is from 2 errors and inaccuracies and some incompleteness. Instead, you could use connected water probes and edge devices like phones to automate the collection of information and get insights from the data at the location. You can also add other data sources like satellite imagery and real-time weather data to get even better insights. Edge devices are important because they can provide insights or run inference, as it's called in AI, without a connection to the internet. You can find a few examples of this in the presentation. I want to show you how bias leads to discrimination. The Stanford paper studies biases and stereotypes in text-to-image applications. It's in your face, so to speak. When you send a prompt for a beautiful person, the app only shows white persons. A software engineer is always a male. What strikes me the most is when you send a prompt for a white poor person, the app still generated pictures of black persons. This is why responsible AI is so important in a global organization like yours, because ensuring equal representation in data sets is very challenging. Auditability, accountability, and explainability are other responsible AI techniques to mitigate bias. So how could bias get introduced? They could be overrepresentation of community in the data, so they would be more likely to get better or more resources. Every community must have similar representation in the data. Let's look in more details at responsible AI techniques for all
AI systems, not just LLMs.
auditability is about keeping an audit trail of all changes in the data, the model, and the code. Auditing has to be performed throughout the life of the AI system. Accountability, remember, humans are accountable for the data they're using, the model they're developing, and the insights generated by the model. Finally, AI models are black boxes. Often they can't explain their outputs. Explainable AI or XAI is a set of methods and procedures to explain the models. For example, visualizing the decision-making process as a tree-like structure. XAI is important, for example, in patient care situations. How are we going to apply these techniques to use the requirements for keeping an audit trail and making the development team accountable applied to this program? XAI can show the reasoning behind the program to build trust in AI system within the community. On this topic, I want to mention the concept of contestable AI. Everyone, including the users, can dispute the AI system's outputs throughout the entire life cycle. The dispute is then examined and the decision can be made on changing the system or not. It's important for remote communities because they are on the ground and may have better information than what the AI system is generating. In terms of privacy and security, the community data is probably very sensitive. So all the privacy and security procedures already in place at UNICEF will also apply here. Some design suggestions for AI systems. One is reactive versus proactive approaches. In a reactive approach, you find bias and you fix it. A proactive approach is more preventive. For example, you already have guidelines or policies that say that every child gets education, no matter the gender, disability, etc. So you already know that you have to take care of that when you are preparing the data, developing and training the AI system, etc. So that's the mindset of the proactive approach, prevent the problem instead of waiting for an accident to happen. Another suggestion is a Web3 approach with blockchain, which is everything that AI is not. It is transparent, immutable, and tamper-free. So it's ideal for implementing auditability, transparency, and accountability, as it gives you a timestamped end-to-end view of the data that entered the system, who coded what, to modify, etc. It doesn't mean that there won't be problems, but at least everything is visible. FICO, a US-based financial company, has been using this approach for several years and have patented their solution. Another suggestion is to engage all stakeholders, making sure that everyone knows about the development, training, and operation of the models and provide feedback. Finally, AI's development is different from traditional software development because of all the potential data problems discussed. On top of software development issues, you have to be attentive to data throughout the entire life cycle, from the model development to the training to the testing, to deployment and post-deployment. How would that apply to GEWS? You already know that all the communities must get adequate resources, so you can take this into account. And the proactive approach, a Web3 solution with the perpetual feedback from the communities, and contestable AI will maximize the quality of the system responses and its trustworthiness. There are a lot of resources in the presentation about agriculture and nutrition applications already deployed in Africa. Who's going to benefit from AI here? UNICEF. Employees will see productivity gains. Research shows productivity and efficiency increasing with the complexity of a task. Also, less skilled persons are benefiting more from AI, so it's helping narrowing the skill gap. You can click on this link to know more about research on productivity. There are many tools for automation, from summarizing reports to helping with emails, generating meetings, action items, etc. You can just click on these links and see the examples. Some are free and some others you pay for, like Copilot, which is not cheap. UNICEF is getting a discount around $30 per user per month. So with about 20,000 employees, you get in the millions. You're building Unibot on OpenAI, which uses a token-based system. Basically, every word is a token, which costs zero 0.6 cents. As you pay for each token in and token out, a 60-page report can cost up to several $1,000s. You can use open source tools, but you have to be very careful. If you're using, say, sensitive data, you have to be in your secure cloud. The program function will benefit from all the productivity gains we just mentioned in the previous slides. In addition, DAPM's PPPX, which stands for Expanded Program Policy and Procedures, is an excellent use case because it's already in the direction of digital transformation. DAPM transformed the original PPP manual into a web-based search engine. The PPPX documentation is now in Unibot. In the future, AI can help integrating other data sets, automating program formulation, generating data insights, etc. You have additional information in the presentation. PG's education and health helped us illustrate how AI can help beneficiaries in personalized education. You can think about a data-driven AI to are customized to the learner's pace, interest, learning disabilities, even need, etc. In personalized healthcare, AI can make the medicine dosage very precise and not just based on the weight, but also on the genetics, environment, and other factors. AI can also help customize treatment and prevention and offer more effective mental health care. Most doctors agree that personalized medicine is basically the future in medicine. However, all the AI problems we mentioned before are applying here, so all the responsible AI techniques must be implemented. Finally, for advocates for child rights, the main topic should be responsible AI and the protections of children. And AI can create serious physical and mental damage. Already mentioned unscrupulous behavior, scams, data privacy, manipulations, etc.
Thanks, Mira. This part naturally segues into Stephen's presentation on AI and children.
Thank you, Thierry. Thanks for the invitation. I'm Stephen Foster. I work in the Global Office of Research and Foresight, UNICEF Beneficiaries. I really just wanted to make a few very brief points. I think the main point really is that, and I think, Ian, thank you for putting this in the chat, that UNICEF has a few roles to play. We've spoken a lot about how we can use AI in our programming, and obviously there are opportunities there and risks to be aware of. But we also need to make sure that the children and youths, who are the largest online cohort and at the forefront of interacting with AI systems and have been for years, are also protected and empowered. And so UNICEF really has a key role to play in highlighting the need to think about children for AI policies and for AI systems. This photo is when we consulted adolescents in Sao Paulo. We ran workshops around the world in 2021 on AI and got input into our AI policy guidance. And this point kept coming up again and again, that children use systems, especially in social media, recommender systems, the features that put 20 years on your selfie and or recommendations on who to connect with. They really felt that the AI systems are not built for them, even though they're using it. We just did some analysis, some brief analysis in the UNICEF Global Outlook report that was released last week. And we looked at 10 national AI strategies, and we actually used AI to do this analysis. It was an interesting exercise. We did this analysis previously in 2019 using human coding. But basically, the point is that there really is not a lot of attention being paid to children. So these are firstly AI strategies that mention children. Many don't even mention them. And they really just think of children in terms of the future workforce and not really addressing children's developmental needs, what AI means for their education provision, their healthcare, their participation. And so the point really is that even as we try and influence regulators and policymakers and systems and use AI ourselves, what are the biggest user groups of AI systems are really not being reflected in how the systems are developed or in how they're shaped and how the policy is shaped. And that has to change. And so it's really just a plug for UNICEF also looking externally and trying to shape global discourse and global AI systems that are more child-centered. And we need to do a lot more research. We really don't know the impacts of AI in children, the good impacts and the negative impacts. And we especially don't know how children in the global south are using AI systems, generative AI systems. There's some data points that come from the global north that say that kids are using it a lot, but we don't know about the south. The last point really, and this goes without saying, but if we promote responsible AI to the world, we need to be doing all of those things ourselves. And so I personally think that the AI task force needs to be a lot better funded from the get-go and really focus on the risk aspects, the responsible aspects, and the opportunities. Thank you.